Hello, I just wanted to show you something that I had taken a tutorial on today earlier, and something that might interest you came up. It's a way of processing census and demographics information, and it's a database that we had in an earlier version that is now like a new version. So I wanted to just give you a run through and see if it was something you were actually interested in. It's called Social Explorer. You can find it under the letter S, but you can also go database by type and look under statistical data. I think this one is targeted towards undergrads, so it's not like a replacement for ArcGIS or something where you could take your own data sets and superimpose them on something else. So pretty much you're looking at census data is a strong part of it, but there's a bunch of other cool stuff. But I want to show you. So it's called Social Explorer. I'm already automatically logged in. You would have to make your own account, even if you're on campus. It's something so you can save projects and go back to your work in the context of Social Explorer, so you don't have to like download it every time and reload it. There's a lot of tutorials here. This is something also that New York Times likes to use for some of their infographics. But tables is just the raw data and however you want to present it. But I'll show you maps today. In the maps, there's some pre-packaged ones. US demography is US Census. Election data, this one fascinates me. I want to look at it. But there's a bunch of other pre-packaged ones, and you can see where they're coming from. But let me show you the demography one. There was an older version of Social Explorer. That's how you get there, but I'll show you the new one. So here's the cool thing. I'm going to show you a recipe for looking up percentages of populations that were declared in the census of some 100 years ago, whether people were slaves or not. I don't know if they asked the slave owner or if they asked, are you a slave? But we won't go into census data gathering of the 1800s. Raw, right here, it just starts out with population density. When you click on the Change Data button, you can go into different surveys. And again, there's the census or projected data. But I'm going to go back, and we obviously don't ask for slavery these days, but back in the 1800 census, apparently they did. These are the few questions that they asked. Obviously, transportation was trickier back then, so I'm not sure how they did it, but slavery was one of the questions. For this one that I'm going to look at, I'm just going to do slave population, but it's fun to just cruise around and see everything that you've got. The map, the political map that shows up here is reflective of what's going on at that time. So you can see percentages of state. So it's like 36% of Georgia in the 1800 census was slaves. And it's fascinating to see that New York, there was quite a few, Massachusetts, and it also looks at territories. This is the census data that was gathered in the United States at the time. So, obviously there's probably some out elsewhere. But the comparison tool is pretty cool. So if you click on this to change map layout, you can do a side-by-side comparison. The swipe is just where if you wanted to show the data on a single map, but I'll show you the side-by-side. It plugs in the data that I already had, but I'm going to change it. Let's go up closer to the Civil War. And you'll see that there's different questions that show up here. But again, the slavery is still there. And the same question, slave population. But all of a sudden, we're in a different map. This is the interesting one. Utah Territory, not only is it huge, but there was some slaves here too. I don't know what's going on with that. But you can see the total population was just barely anybody living out here. But I thought you might find this interesting. You can zoom in. When you zoom in, it'll automatically go to counties. You can go to census tracts and whatnot. You can see all this granular data. There's ways of tying this together. You can chain the two maps together. So when you're moving, you can always stick at the same region. And you can see those percentages show up. So here in South Carolina, in Orangeburg, there was 66% population was slaves. And then you go back over here. The counties are different, so I don't know how we deal with that. This one looks pretty similar. Maybe they weren't so tied together. At any rate, you get the idea. I just wanted to show you this because it was really fascinating. There's a ton of other things to go through with this, but I thought you might find this particularly interesting. Hope you have a good one.